Carney is expected to visit India in the first week of March. India's High Commissioner to Canada, Dinesh Patnaik, confirmed the timeline.
President Mark Carney is expected to visit India in the first week of March, signaling a high-stake efforts to reduce Canada's traditional deep dependence on the United States.
Breaking tonight. What happens when a country decides it's done being scared? What happens when pressure stops working, threats lose power, and a quiet ally suddenly starts acting on its own terms? Tonight, we're watching that answer take shape. Not in Washington, not in Brussels, but in New Delhi. Because something big just shifted. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. For years, everyone assumed Canada would always fall back in line. That when the pressure came, Ottawa would pause, hesitate, maybe apologize, and quietly step back. That's how it's always been, right? At least that's what Wall Street believed. That's what Washington expected. That's what most analysts were betting on. They were wrong. Completely wrong. Behind closed doors, Canada didn't slow down. It sped up. While threats were flying across North America, Canada was locking in something far more powerful than words. Commitment. Long-term deals. Real partnerships that don't disappear with the next election or late-night post. And India didn't hesitate. Let's be honest for a moment. This isn't just about trade. This isn't just about energy. This is about confidence. It's about a country quietly saying, we can stand on our own feet. And that makes some people very uncomfortable. Because when Canada chose to deepen its partnership with India, it wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, calculated, and timed perfectly. Remember what everyone expected? They thought Canada would pull back. They thought new agreements would be delayed, softened, or quietly dropped. They thought pressure still worked. But instead, Canada leaned forward. In the coming weeks, Canada and India are preparing to lock in long-term cooperation on uranium, energy, critical minerals, and advanced technology. Not symbolic talks, not photo ops. Real agreements that stretch across years, even decades. That's not a message. That's a decision. And here's the part people are missing. India doesn't move fast unless it's sure. India plans long. It thinks in decades, not news cycles. When India commits, it's because it sees reliability, stability, respect. That tells you everything. Now think about the timing. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Canada had options. It could have waited. It could have played safe. It could have tried to calm everyone down and keep things quiet. Instead, it chose momentum. Because momentum changes the balance. What we're watching right now is Canada building something many thought it never would. Independence in action, not slogans, not speeches. Signed agreements. Supply chain, energy security. And that scares people who are used to being the only option. There's also something deeply human happening here. A reset. A repair. Canada-India relations didn't always look like this. A few years ago, trust was damaged. Talks froze. Doors closed. And most governments would have let that freeze become permanent. It's easier to walk away. It's safer politically. But that's not what happened. Instead, both sides did something rare. They separated the hard issues from the shared future. They kept talking. They kept channels open. They chose patience over pride. That's grown-up politics. And it's paying off. Because now, Canada isn't just re-entering India's market. It's becoming part of India's long-term growth story. Energy demand, infrastructure expansion, technology cooperation. These are not short-term wins. These are foundations. Here's the uncomfortable truth for anyone still living in the old mindset. The world doesn't revolve around one capital anymore. Growth isn't waiting for permission. Countries are finding each other directly. Canada understands that now. Instead of asking, who might get upset? The question became, where is the future going? India is young, growing, expanding fast. Its energy needs are massive. Its demand for reliable partners is real. Canada fits that picture perfectly. Stable, resource-rich, predictable. That combination matters. And while some leaders shout and threaten, others quietly sign contracts. Let me be blunt. Threats only work when there are no alternatives. Once alternatives exist, the game changes. Canada is building alternatives. That's why this moment matters more than any single deal. It shows a pattern, a shift in mindset. A country choosing to diversify not out of anger, but out of logic. One strategy is based on pressure, the other is based on math. And math always wins. There's another layer to this that deserves attention. Speed. These talks aren't dragging on for years, they're moving fast. That urgency tells us both sides see the same risk and the same opportunity. The risk is instability. The opportunity is independence. Around the world, countries are watching carefully. Not just what Canada says, but what it does, who it partners with, how long those partnerships last. And when they see Canada commit to India for the long run, it sends a signal. A quiet one, but a powerful one. It says, we're not waiting anymore. That's why this moment feels different. It's not reactive. It's proactive. It's not emotional. It's strategic. And yes, it's a little bit bold. Some will say this is risky, that Canada should play it safe, that independence comes at a cost. But here's the thing. Dependence has a cost too. And that cost has been rising. What Canada is doing now is spreading risk, not creating it. Building options, not burning bridges. Strengthening ties without breaking rules. That's smart leadership, and it's happening quietly while the noise focuses elsewhere. When those agreements are finalized, they'll represent more than numbers on paper. They'll represent trust, a shared bet on stability, a belief that cooperation works better than intimidation, and once that belief spreads, it's very hard to reverse. So ask yourself this: if threats don't stop deals, if pressure doesn't change behavior, what happens next? The answer is already forming. Countries stop listening. They stop waiting.